Hey Reed, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Kris?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good, good. Who else is online?
There could be lots of people I do not know. I'm sure
Oh,
there'll be,
there's Alan
and I'm sure there are
from
people I
Alberta, and then Moto E. I have no idea who that is. And then someone named Tony.
there's somebody called Brian coming in.
How's the weather in Toronto right now?
Cold and windy.
Cold?
It's been cold and
Oh,
windy for a week.
yeah. How cold?
Um, well, in Celsius, it could be 0 or even minus right now. Like right now, it's 4 degrees Celsius. So,
Oh,
I mean, that's not really warm.
yeah. Yeah, that'd be around like 40 Fahrenheit, I would think.
Right. Yeah. This is the wind can be so cold and strong.
Yeah. Aren't you on the 14th floor?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I face west. So when the wind and the winds always come from the west,
Mhm.
when it hits the building, it could be quite strong. It shakes it.
Yeah. Hmm. So is how is Canada handling the coronavirus and social distancing?
It's actually not bad at all. I mean, there are worse places.
Yeah,
So we're doing a good enough response.
good.
Just just about 2 blocks from here, there's a Salvation Army retirement home. And
Hmm.
a few days ago, 18 people in there passed away from it,
Wow.
like literally within 24 hours.
Yeah.
I'm on hold.
Hey, Ellen.
So Brian seems to be having trouble joining in because he's been joining for 5 minutes already.
I think he was having trouble at the last workshop one too.
Yeah.
Am I in? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you.
Does he get on by a phone or does he use his computer?
What?
Brian, that is. Don't know.
I think he uses his phone. Yeah, I have about 4 or 5 people that are trying to get on the call right now.
Can everyone view this?
What?
The what?
Is this viewable? I'm not sure. I'm not very computer savvy. I know I can hear you all, but I don't know. I can't see you. Am I supposed to see you also?
There's a video button if you wanted to.
Yeah, but I would suggest not. We typically don't have the video on.
Okay, good. That's, I just wanted to make sure I was doing the best I can.
But Myrna, I want to see your pretty face.
Well, thank
Hello. Hello.
Maybe instead of the video.
Hello,
now.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Everybody's good? Everything's
Veronica.
fine. Right. Right.
Everything is just fine.
Yes, right.
There we go. That's a very pretty shirt, Serge.
And we're all pretty.
Yes.
Oh,
Especially Myrna, as you were just saying, right?
Myrna is very pretty.
You can see me? No.
ah,
But the image is forever burned into my
Thank
retina,
you,
Myrna.
thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Very pretty. Mm.
You live in my heart and my imagination, Myrna.
Oh,
oh, how nice.
Always
oh,
in our imaginations.
You're the god. You're the goddess in my imagination.
oh, thank you. I love being a goddess. Mm. Mm.
Could we be otherwise, right? Gods and goddesses.
True, true.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you for the transcript.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Yes, and thank you, Steve, for that awesome little mythological research blurb you did. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was cool. Did you do that while it was while we were in the session doing on the job research?
Is Steve on?
Maybe not.
Not yet.
I don't see
Not
him.
yet.
I don't see him yet. So Ellen, geez, every time you do a transcript, you add another format. I'm waiting to see what you're going to do next.
Well,
I know I loved it though.
I was having trouble with Word, and then Dan told me do it in Pages and then import it over to Word. And that Serge likes Word, and or somebody likes having a PDF, and somebody likes having the Word files, and so I did it in Pages, and I just think it looks nicer in Pages. So anybody who's got Apple might
Yeah.
enjoy it in Pages. So I just sent all three. What the hell?
Hmm.
Pick your pick.
Very
Okay,
sweet.
good.
It's awesome. And I vote for video recording of dance interpretation next, Ellen.
Video recording of a dance interpretation.
That kind of transcript, yeah.
That'll be up
okay.
Dan's
I
alley,
don't know
won't
if I
it?
get
Is
it.
that
but-
is that a challenge?
There you go.
Mhm.
I think the gauntlet's been laid down.
Okay, I'm missing something, but okay.
Mhm.
Oh, no, it's just a poor attempt at a joke.
I don't know. I would thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, Dan, that must be you're up next with that, right? A little dance interpretation.
Careful, Dan rises to a challenge.
Well, yeah, you know.
Yeah, well, if you let me turn my camera on, sure, why not? Or like a kabuki theater type of interpretation.
I guess we'll find out.
Or a
Yeah.
cappella.
You can enlist any services and have it be a ballet.
Yeah. Or Dan,
Yeah.
it could be Cocapelli.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to wait a couple more minutes because when people log in, I have to admit them.
Sure.
Okay.
The universal admitter.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out if
I admit
Larry
it.
Miller.
You admit it.
Just trying to find out if Larry Miller and Delane Tankard made it on the call,
Well, let's see.
or Debbie Van Eckworth.
I
Go on
don't
the
see the name, but
participants and it gives you the
there are
list.
2 phone numbers on there.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Okay, they're probably some of the phone because most of them didn't have computers to use.
I think Veronica,
If
you're
any-
7210, right?
Yes, and I recommended to friends, so you should be getting 2 more area codes of 516.
Yeah, there's one on there I see already.
Yes, me.
Oh,
Ah,
yes.
hiya. Oh,
Hi,
I'm glad
B.
you made it.
How you doing?
Okay. And then Josh should be on.
Oh, great, great.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Veronica.
Hi, Josh.
Hello.
And Brian's trying to get on. He's having troubles, so I sent him the latest link. I'll see if it-
I've been here, Dan. I'm on.
He made it.
Yay, all right,
Oh.
Brian.
Made it.
So that means with the intermission, we get a guitar solo from you, right?
Oh,
Oh,
great.
absolutely. Because I'm not going to do a kabuki dance.
Well, that's up to Dan. You play, he'll dance.
Trick of the rail, you're on.
Something like this.
I definitely must be out of the loop on that one.
No.
Brian, you can always change the instrument you play and play a loop.
Yeah, there you go.
I recorded half of it.
Oh, we have a young voice too.
Ellen.
Yeah. Yes.
A
Yes.
bit of a filler here. Often when Dan actually does his own
Mythology,
summary, he has blessed us with some amazing storytelling. So
Okay.
rather than a typical this is what Kris said, we get a story. We get a story, and it's so he's very versatile that way.
He does a fairly wicked Yoda too.
Oh yeah, some of them had Yoda impressions, and one was a song. One was actually a song, Moody Blues song that was really tied into the living in the land of make believe, and how it tied to the Garden of Mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta love how they all flow together like that so well.
Now we're living in the land of quarantine.
What are you talking about?
Land of quarantine.
Try not to
let it show.
COVID team.
So Roberta, can I make you back up?
Okay, go the other way.
Huh?
Yep, that'll be fine.
Ellen, that was very good. COVID team.
COVID team.
That was very good. Land of COVID team.
Not to be confused with Ovaltine.
Or quarantine.
But maybe in this land of COVID-19, our heartaches can turn into joy. See, the song still applies.
Yeah.
Need some guitar accompaniment.
And drink your Ovaltine.
Now we trust that you are all comfortable. And we thank you for your collective consideration.
Thank you very much, Kris.
As you are all aware, and as most businesses have left a specific message on their answering systems, you are all living in uncertain times. For all intents and purposes, your times are usually uncertain to varying degrees. But you do have an incredible ability to create the very specific journeys that are part of your life experiences. And though this particular time, as you refer to it, seems more uncertain than others, there are certain things that you can very clearly count on. Not specifically in relation to just the advice of the medical experts or the politicians who want to throw the older generation under the bus, but you can rely upon the nature that seems to flow beneath the layers of your regular reality And that nature is the nature of your ideas. In the sense that the reality that you live in is the direct result of the kinds of ideas that you entertain. In the sense of the reality that you live in is the result of idea construction. And right now, the uncertainty of the times is more so that your specific time period seems to be rather complex. There are many things happening all at once that can at times appear to be befuddling, to say the least, confusing. Information coming from different sources, sources of expertise in the medical and scientific field. There are also plethoras of misinformation, conspiracy theories galore, seeming to pollute both ends of the spectrum in terms of information dissemination. And then there are also complications coming from the politicians themselves, who have a different view of how this whole scenario should be played out. Hence our earlier reference moments ago to willingly throw the older generation under the bus for the almighty dollar, as it is often referred to. The reality that exists behind the props, what you call physical reality, that metaphysical reality, the realm of the mind, is where all of this is played out. And it is played out in various arenas simultaneously, such that, of course, it can appear confusing. So it is our humble intent to try and offer some clarification, but specifically from the realm of ideas. And in that realm of ideas lives the self, you. You live in the realm of ideas. Not unlike chess players. It appears that the game of chess is played on the board laid out between the two players, whether they are amateurs or world-class professionals and champion chess players. That is not where the game is being played at. The real game of chess is being played in the minds of the two players. All of the strategies that they are playing with almost simultaneously, which leads them to make the moves with the chess pieces on the board. So right now, there are people moving the pieces on the board without realizing that there is a different realm within which the game is truly played, and that is the realm of ideas. Idea construction is a often neglected arena of exploration. And it would definitely benefit each and every one of you, and others as well, to explore that realm. The realm of ideas simply involves the kinds of thoughts that you entertain. Those thoughts are translated into the belief systems that you entertain, that become the foundation for your experiences. So much so that the beliefs which stems from the ideas that you entertain, actually create the rich soil of your being. You yourselves, as you think you know yourselves, also rises from this rich soil of your being. And you are simultaneously
What was that noise?
both human beings and spiritual beings. And the spiritual being, your true nature, exists in another category of experience altogether, one that is not fettered by time and space and similar limitations. You play out those scenarios within the context of time, space as you think you understand it. And therefore you create the boundaries which you then experience. But this greater reality, the realm of ideas, is where this uncertain time has taken its root. And even though there are many different kinds of so-called medicines and cures that are promoted to one degree or another, even if they do not pan out in your physical reality, or even if they do pan out, there is one particular kind of a medicine above all others that should be considered seriously. And that particular medicine relates to the ideas that you entertain. And the specific reason is that the ideas that you entertain, which then convert into the beliefs that you hold, set up your immune system. Your individual immune systems are a private microcosm of exchanges of energy that allow you to manifest, that allow you to be, and that maintain your well-being and your health, your cognitive abilities, your reasoning abilities, and so on. And you can tap into the energy system that allows the cultivation of well-being over and above all the medicines, whether they are chemical or natural. And we wish to share with you also this evening particular kinds of meditations or mindfulness that will allow the cultivation of a trust in this literal miraculous machine of biological and spiritual energy that you are. And first comes the understanding that you are not your physical form, even though your physical form is the construction of ideas, thus beliefs, that you entertain about yourself. And thus it does not take a far stretch of the imagination to also enter into the realm that if your ideas about yourselves, thus your beliefs, help form the physical shapes, the bodies, the environment, the rooms, the nature that you experience, it also leads to the observation that your inner state of being, the state of your mind, can also be charged, if you like, by the very nature of the thoughts and ideas and beliefs that you entertain, even if you do not know or think you do not know how these things function. You may go about your daily life for years, for decades, and not realizing that you are literally riding a wave of energy that ends up being the person you are or that you think you are. And the human experience has been processing this in your terms for millions of years. Even though all of time is simultaneous, you partition it, you parcel it into blocks that you call past, present, and future for your own collective and individual purposes. And this is not the first time that you have experienced something of this nature. Throughout various centuries, and less than 100 years ago, you had what you call the Spanish flu. 15 years or so ago, you had what you call SARS. Before that, there were plagues of various kinds. It can even be said that the study of viruses and diseases through anthropology and archaeology have uncovered some surprising evidence, if you like, of how viruses and diseases have cohabitated with human beings and other creatures for far longer than it has ever been assumed. And every time they study these things, they will always recognize that it has been longer than they thought. And then, even then, it would be longer than they thought and longer than they thought. Till eventually, those particular sciences, archaeology, anthropology, and so on, may have to come to the conclusion that the human experience and human beings have been around forever, in a sense, though not always and necessarily so in the same kind of shape and form that you see today. And various diseases, infections, and viruses of many natures can be said to have even started mass human migrations across continents, groups of people leaving areas of contagion to save themselves, sometimes bringing the contagion where they go, sometimes escaping it entirely and having to do it again at another time. All of these different experiences, migrations, and even your modern uncertain times are created not by any external agencies, not by any external supernatural forces, not as a punishment for different people's lifestyles, because they are perhaps not God-fearing or God-fearing. It is not because someone had displeased the gods that the crops have failed. If you were to examine exactly what is going on in this particular uncertain times, and even what has occurred in other uncertain times throughout history, you may recognize that all of these situations have brought about a great deal of change in society, in politics, and so many other places, even in religions. And this is occurring as well. And this is not necessarily Mother Nature biting your collective ass because you may have polluted it. This is you, the human race, coming up with an idea that can truly shake your world almost to its knees in order to bring about so many different changes, which will lead to reforms and transformations in many different areas of living, some unanticipated, some anticipated. You may be able to return to a certain level of normalcy, but with add-ons that will modify the very idea of living in this kind of society. There are reasons why, in your historical past, many groups have gone off to the literal other ends of the world and started a smaller culture. Sometimes in order to avoid mass deaths of large groups of citizens, if and when such other situations occur. Here, in this particular situation, you are recognizing some of the benefits already. Rivers and bodies of waters and lakes, even the ocean, seems to be clearing up. The atmosphere, air pollution seems to be clearing up. Animals are returning to where they dared not venture when humans are occupying the place. But the most important changes is not necessarily in the atmosphere that you live your lives, meaning the cities and the towns and the governments and all of these and societal accoutrements, but specifically in your consciousness. Some people have said that this is leading to a change of consciousness. We would add a clarification that instead it is your consciousness that is leading the change, perhaps enticing you to see a different way of living, a different way of relating to each other and to yourselves, to bring about a different change that you might not have considered. And we fully understand the nature of your economies and economic realities. There might have to be some serious changes and considerations at that level as well, simply because you cannot continue to consume and waste, because a consumer society is also a very, very wasteful society. It not only wastes what is produced, both living and non-living, but it also wastes a large amount of your energies, because you must continue to sacrifice yourselves to that purpose. And this is not necessarily the way you want to continue your human experience. You want something sweeter, something kinder, something that acknowledges who you are. And an economy based upon consumerism and waste does not allow that. It only allows a recognition if you are a good consumer. And if you are not, you are sometimes just shoved aside. There is also the consideration of those who have accumulated literally unbelievable fortunes, whilst there are those who can barely find a drop of clean water to drink on a daily basis, never mind food to eat. So you want as a collective to also find a way to bring this back to a kinder and sweeter situation. And of course, there are different factions that oppose all of these things. But this is another challenge. So you could say that you are in the midst of a challenge vortex on many planes. But again, the most significant one is in the realm of ideas. What will you construct out of your new ideas? What kind of culture and civilization will arise from this uncertain times into another period of certainty? So this is what, in part, you are collectively going to determine. And of course, there are many people that are passing from this situation for their reasons. The opportunity might indeed seem appropriate for large numbers of people to simply exit this particular reality in order to perhaps even consider the future of your race in what you call the future times. They might be able to assist you in that way, or simply opt out of the system as it no longer suits them or who they are in the process of becoming. So they simply go through a process of separating or ending their agreements here in this particular time and space and pursue their adventures elsewhere. And again, as we suggested earlier, there is also going to be a kind of revolution about the nature of health and well-being. Because one of the things that may no longer work, as you understand it, is the so-called medical sciences, medical health, which may be very far from a health situation in some countries. Perhaps returning to a better understanding of the relationship between human beings and their living environment. And living environment is not limited to the natural world, the world of physicality, but the actual living environment here. That which you call the mind, the psyche, the spirit of man, if you like, or woman. That realm of ideas is where you are pulling all of these from. And we will in a few moments share with you a means to tap into the energy that is then transferred into your immune system through the nature of your thoughts or beliefs. And some people may indeed feel that at any moment they might be incapacitated or attacked by some unseen enemy, quote unquote, the virus or other viruses. And this leads to fear. And one thing your politicians and your media are very good at, because they have had a lot of practice, is to instill more fear, literally increasing the uncertainty, not just of the times now, but of your own lives. And fear is one of the primary blockages to a well-balanced inner ecosystem as well as immune system, which of course is part of your inner ecosystem. So by instilling fear, it makes for greater stories. And we sincerely desire that all of your stories, your personal stories, continue into a state of greater well-being and health. And this is another issue also that is coming up very clearly because of this situation, that your health is far more important than an economy. You can always rebuild an economy. But once your health is compromised, it is more difficult, because then you have to face and confront your ideas about yourselves. So you are very blessed in the sense that you have at your disposal one of the greatest tools in all of history as you understand it. The ability to manage your feelings, your emotions, and your imagination. This particular triad is a potent tool. It is a trident of well-being. And you utilize it constantly, day in, day out, whether you realize it or not. When you become mindful of it, of the processes involved, you stand to benefit greatly. So your immune system creates a system in itself of checks and balances, not against contagion, not against viruses, bacteria, and whatnot, but against other ideas that you entertain. It seeks to bring out a balance from one set of ideas or beliefs and another. And when you focus from a place of fear, you might indeed become even disoriented, thinking that this is the proper response. And that particular response, a fear response, especially when you cannot physically identify, sends your own immune system topsy-turvy. It tires it out. So we can definitely share with you certain pointers, certain meditations, things that you can do, things that you can consider, things that you can be mindful of to stay the course, to not allow the media, the politicians, the religions, everything else to confuse or strike fear within you. They may be influenced by those situations, but you do not have to. What you focus upon, what you concentrate upon, what you are mindful upon is what sets the influence for a well-balanced system that is incredibly powerful, more so than you can believe. And one of the very, very first preliminary steps in managing any kind of situation along those lines is breathing. Very simply put, modern society engenders generations of individuals who are very shallow breathers. Upper chest breathing does not bring the oxygen and its resources to the human system. And when you become fearful and stressed, you increase the shallow breathing, which shortens your breath and may even cloud your judgments and perceptions. Now, sages and yogis from past ages have brought you this knowledge, nice deep abdominal breathing, which you can do at any particular time. You do not need to sit in a lotus or pretzel position of any way. You simply need to remain centered on your breathing. Breathe from the abdomen as if you are inflating a small balloon. Bring it up into the middle chest, upper chest, and slowly exhale. And do that several times until you begin to feel the relaxation kick in. That will bring extra oxygen deeper into the lungs, thus extra oxygen through the bloodstream and into the brain, which brings that state of relaxation and clarity of mind. So this sets off a very good foundation for a meditative state. And this particular meditative state we shared a few evenings ago with the group. It involves recognizing that first and foremost, you are the generator of energy. That energy is translated into your body and into your immune system. So the more you are able to stay steadfast, the easier it gets to stay centered, to concentrate and be mindful of other kinds of thoughts that may come into your mind, whether they are fear-based or non-essential. And you can simply choose to select trains of thoughts, states of mind that are calming, nourishing, and that lead to clarity of mind. This is very important. And when you can become clear of mind, when your thoughts become clear, allow yourself to reach deep, even if you have to close your eyes, breathe deeply. Allow yourself to reach into your inner being, deep into your mind, into your awareness, directly into your consciousness, with the feeling that you are inside your body. You are there. You are the awareness inside your body. You are the one that selects the trains of thoughts and the beliefs that you want to hold on to. You are the one who determines what it is that you will then experience. Because you are the boss of your reality. You are the boss of your experience. Notice, whatever kind of experience is going on in your life, you are always there. That is the important element, you. So our suggestion is, after taking several deep breaths, becoming conscious and aware that you are there, that life force, that living energy, then reach out into the body, because the body is composed of trillions of cells. And all of these cells are entities in their own rights. They are micro factories of energy. And with calmness of mind, call upon them. Invite the whole of your body to join into the chorus of your mindfulness and tap into the inner universe that is you. Allow yourself to become aware of the energy that flows through your ears, your nose, your mouth, your eyes, your hair, your face, your shoulders, your neck, your chest, your back, your arms, your abdomen, your pelvic region, your spine, your legs, your hands, your feet, as a unit of consciousness in its own right, composed of trillions of other units of consciousness or essence or energy or entity. This makes up what you call you, because you are the director of that chorus. And allow yourself to feel that energy. Become aware of any kinds of thoughts that may enter your mind that might not belong there. Whether they are thoughts of fear or this or that, allow them to flow away from you, like the clouds in the sky, the rivers on the ground. the water in the ocean, moving in and out through the tides and the waves. And just be yourself. Allow yourself to be and recognize it. Recognize that self. And with that recognition, bring peace, equilibrium, balance. Bring wholeness to your body and dig deeper into the body's immune system. Bring the energy there. Visualize it if you like. Pretend that you are able to draw from the depths of the cosmos living bolts of energy. Perhaps you would translate them even as bolts of lightning, displays of energy. Bring it into you. Let it strengthen your system. Let your inner self fill you with that energy. Let it flow to all of the extremities, through every cell, every molecule, every atom, every unit of consciousness, throughout the oneness that is yourself. And rebuild the foundation of your well-being by acknowledging that this process, this meditation or visualization, this hypnotic state, enhances the state of your well-being. It brings you into a state of grace and wellness, and it stitches the thread of oneness throughout the cosmos, so that together, all of you, both all of you there and all of you everywhere, benefit greatly from the experience of well-being. Encourage your immune system to function in the best way it can, in the way it is naturally, so that you stay centered, so that you do not necessarily waste energy through any fear-based ideas, but instead recognize the constructive and unifying power of the ideas that you hold, of wellness and well-being, of love. Allow these to become your particular strengths. And any idea that may come afterwards or at any time that might contradict this, simply ask them to leave, that you will not pay them attention, you will not give them energy. You will only give energy to those ideas and beliefs that strengthen your well-being, your health, your immune system, and you will stay in that particular kind of meditative zone. Even when you are perhaps doing housework or cooking, a portion of your mind is always offering you well-being, so that everything is just fine. And we have explained to our regular group that you can cultivate this particular state of mind, that everything is just fine, because everything is just fine in your reality, in your experience, in your life. Everything is just fine. And at different times of the day, return more deeply into that state of mind, to simply ground yourself again in it. Ground your environment, your house, your family. See them as always operating in such a way that everything is just fine for you, for them. And again, several times a day, breathe deeply. Allow yourself to feel the relaxation all around you. Be mindful of the body, mindful of your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your imagination. You have all the skills and resources and abilities to harness this great gift that you have given yourselves from well beyond the confines of time and space. They are natural extensions of your entity, of your deepest possible nature, well beyond any ideas that you may have about time and space. And you may even call upon your future selves for any additional skills and resources that may exist in the so-called future, because you inhabit that particular area of consciousness as well, because you exist simultaneously in all times and spaces. So you can ask for additional skills and resources, additional updates, if you like, to your immune system from their experiences. As we have suggested earlier, in different ancient times, there were different kinds of plagues and contagions and viruses of different sorts, which have already been built in to your own system. And there will be others into the future. So you can tap into and call upon the skills and resources that your future selves have harnessed and add them to your own in a lovely, gentle manner. Because you all deserve to lead a sweeter life. You all deserve to live much more sweetly. And not just on Dunkin' Donuts, but a sweeter approach to existence, one where love becomes the predominant spice. So when you do have time, listen to this recording, watch the video again, find ways to enter into that state of mind. You do not need to go into extraneous meditations. You can listen simply to what we have described and allow your imagination and your feelings and emotions to wash over you and fill you from within. So we will gladly open the floor, if you like, to some questions. But if you do ask, please speak clearly so that everyone hears you. So if there are any inquiries or observations or comments, please feel free.
Kris, I have one.
Indeed.
So you talked a little bit about breathing with the abdomen or the abdominal breath. And there's a nerve that sits on the diaphragm muscle, the vagus nerve, that goes to our heart and lungs and straight up into our brain. And in the, can't remember what language, perhaps Latin, it was referred to as the wandering nerve. And so it's activated when we get into these meditative states. And I often thought about, do we wander into some of like the deeper states of our own consciousness, and what are some of the healing effects in connection to this old Latin name, if you may?
This particular nerve, which extends from behind the skull on the left side, comes into contact with every single major organ in the body. And when you are stressed out, it reacts negatively in that sense. It cannot communicate properly between all the organs in the brain, causes chaos. So the deep breathing actually causes an almost instantaneous reaction where the nerve, the vagus nerve, simply calms down. It begins to vibrate at a lower rate. And it brings then more energy that is normally wasted through worry and fear, so that you can have a better sense of balance emotionally, feeling-wise, and your body begins to heal. Your body is not a solid state piece of equipment. It is always in a state of change and transformation. Talk about uncertain times. You live within an uncertain organism. It is always in a state of flux. Cells are dying, cells are born constantly. In order to maintain a good state of health, then, you need a state of mind which leads to a constant healing and balance within the system. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah.
So any kind of gentle but deep abdominal breathing will create an almost within moments an effect that you can feel. You will begin to feel more centered, more focused and calm. Touch also triggers a nice response. A gentle, loving touch. It releases endorphins into the brain, that those feel-good hormones. So when you give someone a hug, it is not only them that benefit, you do as well. So if you cannot hug a person, you can hug your pets, unless you have a goldfish or an alligator or a tiger, or you can hug trees. The old hippies were onto something, we can say, because it was not just to make the tree feel good, they felt good. And you can do that as well. It is perhaps more practical in California than in other parts of the world. They are less frowned upon there. That is just a little cosmic humor. But suffice it to say that if you cannot hug that even, then hug a pillow or a cushion if you have no one to hug. It might not be quite the same, but it will still incite within you a relaxation response. So that is also very nice. And even though you might practice yoga or different tantric practices with breathing, meditative practices, as long as it is a very nice deep abdominal type of breath, which pulls the diaphragm down, This is the trigger. It pulls the diaphragm down, does not keep it up here. Brings oxygen deeper. This is what triggers the response. And this in turn increases the flow of oxygen to the blood, which is beneficial, and to the brain. The brain often needs far more oxygen than you give it. So when you are accustomed to just shallow breathing from the top of the chest, and you get stressed out and you simply tighten again, you cut off oxygen that is needed by the brain, because it must kind of find a way to deal with the situation that you are saying is a threat. Even if it knows that there's nothing around, your reaction causes it to go into a tilt situation. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And a follow-up question would be, I wrote an essay once about the vagus nerve, and perhaps what we are wandering into in terms of the etymology was the womb of creation, the realm of the feelings, emotions, imagination. And I wonder if I was onto something with that, or is there a connection between this nerve or this relaxation response and those elements?
At other dimensions of being, if you like, because you are all multi-dimensional beings, you are all connected. All of the dimensions of your being, or within which you have your being, well beyond any notions of time and space that you might even comprehend. You are always tied together by a thread of oneness. The vagus nerve is that physical representation because it ties all the organs of the body into that thread of oneness. It makes that connection, that communication. It is not just through the spinal cord that the exchanges between the organs and the brain occur. It occurs there as well. It goes through your gut. So emotional intelligence, gut intelligence, is also important. That is why it is often a very good idea to pay attention to what you are feeling in your gut, that good old gut feeling. Does that also make sense to you?
Yes, I follow you.
So all of the cells in your body are part of a greater network of cells in other bodies that you have in other times and spaces. And there is a connection. It is a psychological connection. So you could say then that this thread of oneness extends throughout all time and space. The self, the soul, that which exists in dream time, is the connective tissue of all that is. Thus, in order to increase your sense of well-being, also take into consideration that not only is all that is something out there, you are inside all that is, and all that is inside of you. You are constantly creating a macro and the micro universe simultaneously. And that is the wonder of the simultaneity of time and space. It exists as one, and yet is different. You are the eternal self, and yet you are expressing as an finite self in the form of a body. But that is the illusion. Now, are there perhaps other inquiries? Please feel free. The energy is available. Utilize it.
Yes, Kris?
Indeed.
Yes. Could you say something about the unifying and the uplifting effects of music, classical music, attending a concert puts me in a meditative state. But
So
there's
actually,
also a communion amongst us all.
so because of your present social situation, you cannot necessarily simply go out and attend a concert or a symphony. But you can do so through the wonders of your technology. Many, many places are offering free everything. You have many resources such as YouTube, where you can listen to a great deal of music, more than you probably knew was out there. And it does create a soothing effect, because the music that was created apparently perhaps 100, 200, 300, 500, 700, 800, 900 years ago is still imbued with the energy of the various composers. Even though physically they have passed on, they are not dead. They live through their music in some ways. So that triggers responses that reflect the creativity, the energy, the joy, the elation, and the various moods. And most of that music moves you in one form or another in such a way that you make a deeper energetic connection. It calms your mind, stimulates creativity. It fires up neurons and brain cells. It literally opens up other portions of the brain that you might not have considered previously. So altogether, it creates an atmosphere of wholesomeness. It is enriching. Some students have been advised to listen to classical, perhaps even Mozart or Bach or Chopin, whilst they study. Not as loud music, but as something in the background, because it triggers, it activates brain cell function and neurons, increases memory. It literally puts music to life, because life itself is a form of music. It is a grand symphony. You are the composer and the conductor and the orchestra and all the instruments and the resultant symphony. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it certainly does. Thank you for that.
So avail yourself of all the resources that are available out there. Enjoy.
Kris,
Indeed.
thank you for tonight. One of the most impactful statements you've made in the last couple of weeks was when you, for me, was when you said, the virus intends no harm. And I took that in so deeply. It's, as I wander in my arboretum, I almost get the feeling that he, she, it, they is a friend that I can welcome. Seems rather odd, but nevertheless, that's what your statement, that's the impact your statement had on me. Could you say some more about that? That I can continue to take with me on my walks.
Whether it is this virus or another virus or a plague, these are ideas. Ideas have no intent other than to find a means through which you will activate them. You are the activators of energy. You give life to energy in ways that otherwise would not be. Even though ideas are extremely complex constructions, even that of a virus, outside of your realm of time and space, viruses do not necessarily exist as such. They are simply ideas. How you utilize them is a completely different thing. So it is affecting your populations and the immune systems of your populations. And you are utilizing it as a reminder, as an intermediary to your own inner resources. You are finding another way to cohabitate with ideas, to create possibly a different kind of civilization from this point on. And if you look at the various charts of human experience, the civilizations, you will find different interpretations. So an economist might see the growth of economy and well-being in a particular way until it reaches modern times. A virologist might see it completely differently. And he might or she might be able to see the divergent points of human civilizations from different coordinates around the planet. As we suggested earlier, perhaps a group of people living in an area that is experiencing a contagion to get away, to form something else, to create a different situation. So a virologist might see something along those lines, might be able to trace human experiences and the growth and the fall of civilizations in a completely different way than an economist might. And their view is also valid. In fact, it provides a much richer experience because it deals with human beings. This virus is no different. It is benign. It has no purpose of itself except the ones that you are experiencing as a species. It was not created in a lab. It has been around you for far longer than you think. But it has been activated because there was a particular global, collective, unconscious acquiescence that something needs to be done about the human situation. And since various sections and factions and organizations were ignoring many situations, then it brought it all to a head. And this situation is now what you are living in. So you are utilizing this situation to change the norms of society. And it may end up creating incredible surprises. You might even consider as to why you did not think of this earlier and had to wait for a virus to show you how to do these things, how to transform your lives. And it is incremental. And as the years go, different situations will be developed. Modifications will be made. Improvements will be made. And there will come a time when this situation will be an echo in your past. But one that may even be recognized as being very transformative. Every 150 plus or more or less years, you have something that comes around and you utilize it to make the changes, some of which may have been long needed, but never properly activated or acted upon. So it is entirely possible that you honor all of creation, which includes, as we suggested some weeks ago, and is sometimes practiced by Aboriginal cultures, recognize and sing a song, even if it's word song, to the nature, to the elements, to the stars, to the sun, the moon, the water, the air, the trees, the ground, the earth, the volcanoes, the glaciers, the snow, the mountains, even the viruses, even the bears and the tigers. And most importantly, sing a song to yourself and your lovely natures. Never forget yourselves. You are part of the environment. You are inside all that is as much as all that is inside you. All that is includes viruses, and viruses include all that is. Does that make some sense to you?
It does, and thank you.
And perhaps there is another inquiry. Please feel free.
Hi, Kris. This is Kathleen.
Indeed.
Hi. Good question, Veronica. Good questions, everyone. But I have a question that has to do with music. What Veronica said about classical music was really kind of struck me, and it brought up a question about tuning ourselves. Excuse me, whether via music or via tuning forks. And when you said that all of creation is like a grand symphony, it brought to mind the question of, do we benefit from increasing our octave, so to speak, energetically in terms of, like, say, for instance, using tuning forks or particular pitches when we sing our magical songs, that increase our vibratory rate so that we're able or enabled to kind of release more easily things of a lower vibratory nature?
Take into consideration an orchestra. You have the string section, the wind section, percussion, and so on. Imagine, if you will, that every single instrument plays one note. How would that sound like? Would you call that a symphony or simply one note?
Just one note.
However, if all of the various instruments play their particular notes in harmony, you get a beautiful piece of music. And whether it is something from 500 years ago or some modern piece that moves you, there is a resonance created within you. And notice that it is a variety of musical notes that make it interesting, not just one note. So whether you raise your so-called vibration or lower it, the idea is that you live life, which may include raising and lowering notes and vibrations in and out, just like the waves that crash upon the beach. There are small waves that lap the beach. There are bigger waves, and there are tsunamis that crash into it. But they're all waves, and they're all from the ocean. And they make it all the more interesting. So be gentle with yourself and have fun and dance and sing, especially the life that you are. That is far more advantageous than sitting down very seriously, very concentrated, almost militantly. I will raise my vibration now. Do you get the point?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Have fun with the music of life.
Thank you.
perhaps one or two more inquiries or comments, please feel free. Somebody wants to ask something, please feel free.
Hi, Kris, this is Chuck. So one of the things that I've recognized as this phenomenon that we have going on around the globe has expanded itself is you talked earlier about belief systems. And one of the belief systems that I think is being challenged very strongly right now is the belief system that we are more than just a body. And I think that it's being challenged in a very dramatic way because people are very worried about dying. In other words, their very existence coming to an end. And I've recognized, of course, that a larger understanding of who you are allows the ability to stay, as you said before, centered, peaceful, calm, when these types of things come around, because that worry is no longer a part of who you are any longer. And I don't know if you want to expand on that at all.
The one thing that may be more certain than anything else during uncertain times is the certainty of life and death. It comes and it goes. What gives it particular meaning is what you assign to it. And yes, many people are fearful for their lives at this particular point because their belief system is such that they have no control over their existence. There is a power right now, an invisible power so tiny that you cannot see it, that may get into you and take away your life. And this particular kind of fear actually weakens both the immune system and the individual, and as we suggested earlier, clouds the mind. So that is why we suggested doing things that strengthen your immune system, and that includes observing your beliefs. So your beliefs are ideas about you and your environment and your life within it are important. So if you believe that you are an victim of events and circumstances, even invisible bacteria and microbes and viruses, then you lead yourself into a precarious corner. You paint yourself into a psychological corner. So by examining what ideas that you hold about the universe, reality, life, your relationship with all these and more, and in particular, about where your strengths and resources come from, you will greatly benefit and even learn to put aside fears and concerns that might be unfounded. So you are giving yourselves a collective, literally kick in the pants, and you are sacrificing your lives for ideas. And it need not be. You can live life for the very same ideas. Simply be aware of what you entertain. Does your health and well-being only come from perhaps becoming a marathon runner or a jogger or doing weights or exercising 7, 8, 10 days a week? Or perhaps it is entirely dependent on the kind of power drink that you make with all of the herbs and chemicals you put into it, the kind of diet that you eat, your nutrition. Is your well-being only based upon that? If these things are changed, you might be a people. Consider instead that your psychological nutrition, that which you feed your mind with, is of even greater importance. Then you have already won much of the battle, as it were, in the sense that you can then become aware and manage the contents of your mind, your awareness, what you gather to your attention, so that you can know for certain that the beautiful mental atmosphere that you create for your well-being is even more important than making certain that everything you eat is absolutely right on as the experts tell you. And if you deviate to any degree, you might be in peril. Does that answer your inquiry?
Yes, it's quite helpful. Thank you very much.
So cultivating a healthy state of mind is even more important than anything you might even think about. The thoughts that you think, the emotions that you cultivate, the feelings that you feel, all fuel your imagination. If everything is fear-based, your imagination runs wild. It does not know then what it is that you want. You are looking for an invisible enemy. It cannot find any, but you are still triggering fight or flight responses, and your system is becoming overwhelmed, overrun with chemicals. Then you begin to suffer. Always have a calm, clear, collected state of mind. See the beauty in the grass and the appreciation in every aspect of your day, or as many aspects of your day as you possibly can. See the very same thing in you. Stop thinking about the flaws that others may perceive or not. That is irrelevant. What is important is that you dwell upon the grace and well-being of you. Now, perhaps one last observation or inquiry.
Hi, Kris. This is
Indy?
Josh. I'm new. Can you please talk about the head and heart connection?
In what sense?
In terms of creation.
So just as you have various body parts, you have various aspects. Your persona is not just one thing. It is composed of many, many different psychological elements, traits, and characteristics that are woven together by you to create who you are. Now, as a self, you are a whole being. But when that whole being stitches for itself a costume of atoms, molecules, and flesh and bones and tissue, it appears that you are bifurcated in a thinking head and a feeling heart. And your present culture has evolved in such a way that this seems entirely logical. The logical mind, the rational mind, the intellect, all here. And then the heart, the emotion, the feeling, all here. As if these are two different worlds and they might never be reconciled. You have your scientific stuff and you have your intuitive and other things. The head and the heart. The reality is that they exist together. They only appear separate because you actually do that to your system. You cut it in two and you make different camps that sometimes seem to argue or even go at war with each other. There's a greater reality behind all of that. It is that you are one being. Your entire system, all the atoms and molecules that make up your body, are all thousands and trillions of living entities. You are the maestro of that orchestration of living entities. And behind the head and the heart, behind the logical and feeling door, is one being. And you do not have to separate the two, because they truly are united. As soon as you begin to let go of the divisions, the disparities and duplicities that may exist along all those divisions, as soon as you recognize the oneness of your being, then a completely different self comes to the forefront. One that sees that life is in itself a miracle, and that you are also a miracle of life. Once that kind of perception is sought, is recognized, and begins an active participation, or to be active in your life, there might never necessarily be any more confusion about head and heart. Everything is one. They work in balance and unity. Right now, during the course of your human evolution, your species in particular, more than any other, has sought to understand how certain aspects can work separately, even though they are all unified. So you have people who are more rational and logical, and some that are more intuitive and feeling. And yet these represent but different factions of the oneness that is you. So look behind the facades in that way. You will see that the head and the heart are not separated things at all. They simply represent different appropriate functions in time and circumstance for any event and situation you find yourself in. But they can always be brought together. In that way, your life is far more enriched, because this actually is another particular aspect of recognizing the oneness and the thread of oneness of all things. And this is something that will begin to show itself. It may already have begun to show itself in your human experiences, that you are not divided, but you have not finished the journey yet. You are still in the process of becoming. We hope that this brings a little bit of insight, and we thank you all for your beautiful consideration. And may you indeed have
Thank you, Kris.
a great existence.
Thanks, Kris.
Thanks, Kris.
Thank you, Kris.
Thank you, Kris.
Thank you, Kris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kris.
Thanks, Kris.
Thanks, Kris.
Serge, you're going to have trouble sleeping tonight?
Oh.
Probably gonna sleep like a baby.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful.
Chuck, you were recording, yes?
Roberta was, I believe.
Roberta recording?
Oh,
Yes.
I
Okay,
hope so. Oh,
so we can
good.
get the recording?
Well, Serge was recording too.
Yes, yeah, okay, good.
Might be a YouTube video too, Myrna.
Oh,
Yeah, if
sorry.
we have just the audio, I can type it up if anybody'd like a transcript.
Oh,
Wow.
yes, yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Since I've had a bit of a break, yeah.
So
Brian,
Oh, that's
Brian,
so good. Thank you,
Bri-
Daniel.
Awesome,
Brian,
Dan.
sorry.
Yes, Myrna.
Was this being recorded for YouTube? I didn't realize that.
No, I'm saying something like this, Serge usually will
Oh,
put this out
okay.
as a YouTube video.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
there's video, and there's also they're recorded simultaneously.
Okay, dear.
That's the audio, but there's also a separate audio file.
Okay. But we are going to, you're going to send this out to us so we can distribute it? Yes?
Yeah, I'll send
Okay.
out, and I don't know, maybe we can do video, pop it up on YouTube and stuff like that.
Sure.
Oh,
Lovely.
excellent.
Lovely.
Stop really
Thank you so much.